Did you ever see any racism toward you? I mean, when I was younger, like I was my friend Earl said this in a song, but I was too white for the black kids, and I was too black for the white kids.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
On October 14th, 2025, singer-songwriter D'Angelo passed away at the age of 51. My feed was filled with posts commemorating D'Angelo and remarking on the impact his music had on their lives. This included none other than Tyler, the creator, who tweeted and posted a heartfelt caption memorializing D'Angelo on his Instagram. Tyler has nearly 18 million followers and has since turned off all comments on the post due to the nature of the responses. Tyler's predominantly white fan base left comments ranging from confusion and indifference about who D'Angelo was and his significance to blatant racism and disrespect. Tyler deactivated the comments, and instead of condemning their behavior himself, he liked the following tweet shading his fans, saying, "Tyler's fan base hates black music despite Tyler himself having a very deep love and appreciation for it. He has Charlie Wilson, Erykah Badu, DJ Drama, and they still refuse to engage with black art on any meaningful level. Very cannibalistic." How could they not know who D'Angelo was and the significance of his artistry? D'Angelo, whose albums Voodoo and Brown Sugar shaped modern R&B, and even if they weren't aware, why is the response to blatantly disrespect a recently deceased man? Now, Tyler's reaction makes sense in a vacuum, but if you're like me and a good portion of the black community who are aware of Tyler's history, his fans' behavior is the farthest thing from shocking. Farthest you can get, I don't know. Tyler is finally learning that the audience he built over the span of his career is a reflection not only of who he once was, but in many ways still is. They love to consume blackness and black art, but they don't value black people. It's the Spider-Man meme, but more sinister. But it's also a compelling case study into black fame, internalized anti-blackness, and the cost of mainstream success. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Shit, that's why I'm here. But first, let me introduce myself. How rude of me. Welcome back to Lonnie's Lens. My name is Kaylani. If you love thoughtful deep dives, camp, and a bit of whimsy, you're in the right place. My last video on this channel was on nostalgia's propaganda, and on my second channel, I hopefully recapped season 2 of Gen V. If that interests you, everything will be linked in the description below, along with my socials and Venmo. Haven't plugged my Venmo in a while, but if you like my videos, if you've been here before, and you're feeling generous, if you're in a place to give, I feel like a pastor, I'm passing around the plate. Make sure to like this video, share, and subscribe, especially if you've been here before. And with that, let's go ahead and get into today's video. But before we continue, let's talk about something we don't talk about nearly enough: taking care of yourself. And I mean actually taking care of yourself. This video is sponsored by Lelo, and honestly, it's the perfect timing to treat yourself for the holiday season. People are so stuffy about sex in a way I find peculiar. This is just another way to have fun and get to know yourself and what gets you going. Lelo isn't just another toy brand, it's the luxury toy brand. I'm bringing all the good stuff. They're known globally for their premium quality and innovative technology, and honestly, their products are just beautiful and fun to play around with. Especially their bestseller, the Sona 3 Cruise. This has been one of their bestsellers for a reason, and they just made it even better. Instead of vibrating, it uses sonic waves that go deep without even touching you directly. It's a completely different full body sensation that builds gradually. The intensity goes up smoothly, so you're not getting jump scared out of the mood. And they have this really cool thing called cruise control that keeps it consistent, so you can just stay in the moment without ever thinking about what you're doing. It's also really beginner friendly with only 3 buttons, but there are 10 different settings and 16 different intensity levels, so you can genuinely just explore and figure out what it is that you like, all in one toy. And like I said, the Sona 3 Cruise is gorgeous. All of Lelo's products are so pretty, but this one is literally like iridescent. Like it's so gorgeous. But the fun doesn't stop there. You don't have to just hear me talk about it. Use my code for an additional 15% off your purchase. Go to the link in the description box to elevate your intimate moments like never before. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of today's video. I mentioned D'Angelo and alluded to his significance in the intro. I will admit I'd only heard a few of his songs before his passing, but I knew of his infamous music video and the impact it had on the rest of his career. I've since learned how influential he is to R&B and how a lot find him to be severely underrated even within the black community. D'Angelo's passing has reignited the conversation around what it means to be black famous. For those unfamiliar, for the locals, black famous is when an actor, singer, etc. is well known and upheld in black spaces, but virtually unacknowledged in the mainstream, or what I refer to as simply famous. Whiteness is the standard in the mainstream, and only a select few people of color are granted the famous recognition for many reasons, some of which we will get to later in this video. But the main one is white supremacy, racism. People often debate whether mainstream fame is necessary for stars who are black famous. There are good arguments that validation from white spaces isn't necessary because we know how talented these people are, and that's what actually matters. But I've never been able to fully get behind this thought process. I also don't care about white validation in itself, but we have to acknowledge what comes with that validation that is so valuable. Visibility, access, and opportunity. Of course, we know how talented these black stars are, often far more than their white counterparts. No shade, but it is insane to see praise for Chappell Roan and Renee Rapp as trailblazers when Sid was always making better sapphic music that didn't unnecessarily mention men. I guess I'm just coming for everybody today. I actually like Renee Rapp, and she acknowledges this reality as well, which makes me like her even more, okay? But it's not touching Sid. It's not even touching Sid. Like, what are we talking about? They act like Chappell and Renee are the first lesbians to ever exist. Sid was doing this shit before y'all knew you were gay. Like, what are we talking about? I don't know. That's so crazy to me. Anyways, the bigger point here is that I have to go out of my way to see black artist projects and curate my feed for updates from them because their opportunities are so far and few in between. Whereas mediocre white stars I couldn't care less about are in every other film, and I can't avoid their press and information about their lives in the media. It's quite irksome to me, I'll say. Video on Julia Fox and Trisha Paytas is coming soon. For example, I have Addison Rae blocked on Spotify and most platforms purely out of principle, and still I hear about her music and what she's up to at least once a week. I have never voluntarily searched anything up about Addison Rae, and somehow I still just am inundated with information about her. I don't understand. I really don't know what to do, okay? Meanwhile, I have to actively search for black artists I actually like and are far more talented. I literally just want to walk into a coffee shop and hear a black artist like Flower of Love or Jay Stevens and have that be a norm and not a genuine surprise. It's a strong desire of mine, and I get why some people have made peace with it not being a reality. It can be really embarrassing to admit you want something, especially something that feels impossible. But apparently it's not as embarrassing to build a career off of anti-blackness. Which brings us to the man of the hour, Tyler, the Creator. Tyler has been around for as long as I can remember. I remember finding his music during my quest for indie artists as preteens did in the 2010s and really liking what I heard, but then I heard him speak, and Tyler is undoubtedly hilarious, but I wanted to know what he was actually like beyond the sound bites.
Okay, now what about your lyrics?
What about them?
What are you saying in your lyrics?
Nothing. Shit to piss old white people off like you.
Is that right?
The first long-form interview I found of his was with Larry King. I'll never forget the disappointment in seeing him tell Larry that the N slur doesn't affect him, and that the white men in that very room could call him the slur and it wouldn't affect him at all.
Yeah, like if a white person says it, isn't it derogatory? Like, it's derogatory because your skin isn't the same color as mine. But why when it's just weird that a lot of people still get, upset with that. And it's like, I don't know, I think you give certain words power. Are you saying it's just a word? Yeah, like, if you choose to. Is there any word that call me and I would not give a Is there any word that would bother you? Would the word boy bother you? If someone said, hey boy, not at all. Wouldn't bother you. No word would bother you. No. So anybody could call you anything. Yeah, I wouldn't care.
I also want to say this is like one of like maybe 3 or 4 videos I've made about like racism on the early days of the internet. And every time a situation comes up like this, when I like want to make one of these videos, I don't have to do research. Like I vividly remember this happening and being like, what the f-? And then storing it in my brain for later. It turned out to be more than just racialized trauma. It was actually beneficial to what I do in my work now. Like, I'm trying to see it in a positive light. This is crazy, bro. I don't know what to say. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm just trying to make it make sense. Like, yeah, maybe some good came out of it. Nah, it was just a lot of bullshit. Right. Okay. It's crazy because while making this video, I realized Tyler is 34 years old. He's 12 years older than me. He was older than I am now when he was saying most of this shit. I always thought we were similar in age because of his silly demeanor, especially with him parroting the same rhetoric a lot of the boys around me in middle school did, nonchalantly yet emphatically endorsing racist jokes and behavior as they played unfazed. I know that this is a trauma response and an attempt to feel like you have agency, considering that black people have no real power over white people. I said it in my K-pop video about anti-blackness in the industry and fan spaces. Like, racist people are not sitting around waiting for you to let them be racist. Like, they're gonna do that regardless, but you allowing them to sure does make them feel better about it. But again, this is obviously a trauma response and an attempt to feel like you have control and agency when you literally don't. It's gonna be a theme in this video of, instead of just admitting that you don't want people to be racist, you just preemptively pretend like you're okay with them being racist. I'm black, if you couldn't tell, and I grew up in a predominantly white environment, but you already knew that. I mean, you have eyes and ears, so you probably could tell that already without me having to disclose that information. But I also grew up with the early internet trolling and edgelord content during my formative years. I'm a survivor, guys. Internalized anti-blackness is something every black person has to contend with at some point. I've had to do it myself, and it is an ongoing process, so I can empathize with Tyler to an extent. It gets to a point. But where Tyler and I differ is the loudness and active role he played in perpetuating perpetuating stereotypes and excitedly allowing white people to feel emboldened in their anti-blackness. I will be saying white people throughout this video, but it's not exclusive to white people, it's non-black people. But white people is just easier to say. Originally, I assumed that his appearance on Larry King was the worst of it, but recently old tweets and photos have resurfaced of even worse statements about black people, misogynoir and minstrel and Klan imagery that really made me consider the grace I've extended Tyler in the past. I won't be sharing the worst of them because I have no interest in subjecting you as the viewer of this video or myself to them as I edit this video. You can find these tweets yourself if you so desire, but the more tame and funnier of them was Tyler expressing how much he hated Leon Thomas's character in Victorious, which is actually one of my Halloween costumes this year. And it's like, how can you hate Andre? What did he do?
What'd she do?
None of your stupid business.
Tyler participated in this behavior himself, so if a black man is doing it to his own people, why should his predominantly white fan base feel bad about it when they do it? Tyler made his brand and whole persona a safe space for anti-blackness. It's odd because Tyler oscillates between this goofy edgelord persona, but he's also very smart and intentional. That's how he started Odd Future and became this creative visionary we see today. So I really don't want to infantilize him when we know what he's capable of and how self-aware he is. His internalized anti-blackness could very well be a humongous blind spot, or something he intentionally capitalized on, which is what I personally lean toward. And I'd go further and say that this wasn't just internalized anti-blackness, but externalized too. He wasn't just struggling privately with his identity, he was broadcasting it, monetizing it, and building a fan base around it. In that same interview, he also tells Larry that he wants to be more than a rapper and doesn't even want his name associated with other rappers, but rather with white auteurs like Tarantino and Wes Anderson in a more legitimate art form like film.
I'm pretty bored with it. It's not interesting. And I don't want to be, like in the future, I want to do films. I want people to mention my name. I'm next to Wes Anderson or Quentin Tarantino. I don't want my name to be mentioned next to other rappers. At all.
Not Spike Lee or a black auteur. How are you gonna be a rapper and go on a show, promote a rap album and say, I don't want to be associated with rappers? Like, what? And we have to remember, he's on Larry King, speaking to a predominantly white audience, actively distancing himself from blackness and black artists. For what exactly? White approval. Looking at this in context, it's hard to say that it's not intentional, but it's also irrelevant whether it was intentional or not. It worked. Tyler has broken past black fame and is now a mainstream success. One could even argue he was never black famous to begin with. But back to the Spider-Man meme, Tyler's fanbase treats him the same way he treats blackness and black people. They love the aesthetics, the music, the slurs, and the coolness, but not the people. It's never the people. When Chromacopia dropped, white fans eagerly recreated Tyler's face mask to replicate his album cover, completely oblivious to the history of blackface and minstrelsy, because they can be. This is what superficial engagement with black culture looks like. And did Tyler call them out on this behavior? What do you think? Come on, obviously not. Even after that, he's looking at them surprised like, what? You guys don't respect black people? How did we end up here? Well, I'll tell you, it's actually quite simple. But I want to drive home the fact that Tyler's not actually bewildered because he's grown as a person and his fans haven't kept up. He's surprised because he thought his wealth and status had moved him beyond being subject to the same dehumanization he helped normalize. He's upset that the application of anti-blackness to something he cares about, D'Angelo, and by extension his musical inspiration that he genuinely values, not at the anti-blackness itself. He wanted to distance himself from blackness and be treated as an individual exceptional artist. But his fans' response to D'Angelo reminded him that to them, he's still just the cool black guy they're allowed to consume, guilt-free. His fans don't see themselves as anti-black because they love Tyler, and Tyler doesn't see himself as anti-black because he is black and he loves D'Angelo's music. They're both engaged in the same comfortable delusion that consuming blackness means you value black people.
You're a Renaissance man.
I don't know if that, okay.
Tyler's been clear from the start that he aspires to greatness. He's yet to venture into film directly, but his music has evolved greatly in the past few years. Tyler experienced a renaissance where black musical influence became more integral to his musical identity than ever before. After all, what is great music without black contribution? What is great anything? There were always hints of black influence in his music, but on his album Chromacopia, songs like Sticky distinctly feature horns that sound like they could be taken directly from an HBCU marching band. There are features from unapologetically black artists artists like Sexy Red, Glorilla, Doechii, and more. And beyond Sonics, the visual shift was clear too. Music videos featuring unambiguously black actresses like Iowa Debris and Nia Long. On the surface, there seemed to be a greater appreciation for blackness from Tyler that may have eased his own internalized anti-blackness and served as a healing journey of sorts. But in my opinion, it's more likely that racist tweets just don't fly in 2025. I mean, it's like okay, like it's like nothing's gonna happen to him, but it's not socially acceptable to be so publicly and outwardly anti-black, and that's what we're seeing. It's more profitable to pander, and it's like why are we like settling for the bare minimum? Like he's not actively spouting racist tweets every 5 minutes, and he put a black person in his music video, so I guess he's not anti-black anymore. Like that's literally the thought process, and it's kind of sad because I've fallen victim to it as well. When writing this script, I initially thought, or rather wanted to believe, that Tyler was actually growing as a person with a more overtly proud depictions of blackness, but other people were quick to call it what it was: pandering. And maybe that impulse to want to believe connects to what I was talking about earlier with black fame. It's embarrassing to admit that you want something that feels impossible, whether that's wanting black artists to have mainstream visibility or wanting Tyler to genuinely reckon with his past and, I don't know, apologize. It's easier to accept the aesthetic shift, to call it growth and move on, than it is to demand a real apology that's most likely never going to come. We actively lower our expectations to protect ourselves from being disappointed. And I say we because this includes myself. I personally believe there cannot be growth without full, truthful acknowledgement of what was done, where it was done, publicly, and Tyler has yet to acknowledge any of this and apologize. He's just made his music and image more overtly black, which could attract black audiences who are unaware of his past, but will likely just attract the same audience he's had, which is such an interesting phenomenon, but also a bit of a tragedy. But is it really a tragedy if it's not only deserved, but earned? He actively sought this out. It's not like he just fell into this. Every time we talk about celebrities and what they do and how it's like, oh, they couldn't possibly have done this on purpose. And it's like, why not? They were intentional about everything else except this thing. I actually delayed this video for a week in hopes he'd say something about the resurfaced tweets, address his past, literally anything. But instead, unsurprisingly, he stayed silent. He had so much frustration towards his white fans' hatred, but he can't even face his own past. When talking to my mom about this, she pointed out that his silence is predictable and likely strategic. It's literally the reason he's famous and not black famous. Mainstream success seems to require a level of complicity to anti-blackness that is not passive but active, and Tyler isn't the only one to choose this path. I made a video at the beginning of the year where I highlighted the pattern of successful black men's fetishization and objectification of white partners as prizes. I briefly mentioned Tyler in relation to Gerard Carmichael, but he actually narrowly avoided being a full case study himself. There's a lot to get into there. I won't even get into it in this video, but there is a lot to get into with that. But I'll never forget one of the first comments I received on that video. The opening line being "successful black men" has me scared this will be the same song and dance of desiring men who achieved traditional success and patriarchal power based in white supremacy, and then being surprised by the head-ass behavior and self-hatred that got them their status. I just wish we highlighted positive examples of men. So many young men wouldn't look up to these goofy figures if they weren't the only ones we talked about and highlighted. At first, I was taken aback because I was not making the video out of jealousy or bitterness stemming from my desire to be with the men I talked about in the video. Please. It's a really tired trope to just depict any complaint or any grievance as being jealous and bitter of Donald Glover? I was highlighting the underlying causes of this behavior and how it dehumanizes the women these men pedestalize, as well as the women they denigrate. But there was some truth to the comment. When I think of Donald Glover, Doja Cat, Steve Lacy, Gerard Carmichael, etc., who are considered to have mainstream success, they all have documented loud anti-blackness in their past and present. Daniel Caesar could also go up there, but I think he's the only one who tried and failed. Oop! It almost starts to feel like anti-blackness is a requirement for this level of fame, but they all also lean heavily into their blackness as cultural cachet to benefit from. It's a really fascinating system. It's actually fascinating, maybe isn't the word, it's sad. I already talked about Gerard Carmichael and Donald Glover in the video I mentioned, but let's take a closer look at Doja Cat and Steve Lacy. Doja has also been called out for wearing a t-shirt featuring a pretty niche, edgy comedian I'd never heard of, who's known to have a racist past and present ? Before mainstream fame, she frequented tiny chat rooms full of white supremacists and made songs using the racist phrase "didn't do nothing." She achieved massive mainstream success. And then, like Tyler, she turned around and chastised the fan base she built. I wrote despite in my script, but now that I'm reading it out loud, I think in tandem might be a better way to say that. It's not in spite of anything. Their anti-blackness was never going to derail their careers. It's not the world we live in. Steve Lacy actually started out black famous, but he's made comments about refusing to date black men because he grew up seeing them as competition. I know some black women were saying that he still likes black women, but like, let's be so for real. Let's break it down. What's the difference between the men he will date and the men he won't date? Whether or not they are black. So why would that change when it comes to women? He also reposted a picture of black people at some awards show with a caption, I be seeing shit like this and wonder, do they just be like, all right, black people, get in that room over there and take a pic together. Nice pic though. I guess it's supposed to be a joke, but is it though, considering who he is and what he said? In 2022, his song Bad Habit went viral on TikTok and pushed him into the mainstream. I vividly remember being so mad because resale tickets for his shows were insanely expensive, despite him being relatively unknown except for in the black spaces prior to his TikTok fame. And suddenly, he seemed to hate the audience showing up to his concerts. It was kind of sad in the moment to see him have such a bad time on tour, but it also gave us some of the funniest TikToks of all time.
She made you a shirt.
I appreciate that. I'm talking right now.
No.
Can you say hi to my mom?
Can you be quiet?
And it's funnier now looking on it and being like, he won't date us, but he sure as hell wanted us to buy tickets, and he probably would have had a better time if we were at the concerts. My mom, who should definitely get writing credits on these videos at some point, or at least script supervisor, pointed out that there's a weird standard for these artists. They're constantly trying to distance themselves from blackness and have it be their defining characteristic. There's a desire to be seen as individuals, something white people already have access to, but black people don't. Black people don't get to be individuals. We're always seen as a monolith. When you hate yourself as a white person, it doesn't carry as much weight, but internalized self-hatred as a black person has ramifications for the entire community. It's a lot of responsibility, but also caring about other people can make it easier to care about yourself. And I'm still unpacking this topic, and it'll definitely come up in future videos. I just think it is important to acknowledge that there is a burden, hint hint to my next video, but there is a burden that comes with being a black person and having to unpack your own racialized trauma and how that is kind of representative of the whole community. But while these artists shamelessly try to distance themselves from blackness, they also heavily lean into the favorable and profitable aspects of blackness, just like white people do. The system rewards this contradiction. You get a black person using black aesthetics, they have a right to, but with no allegiance to black people, or a bare minimum, no care for them. You're safe. It's hard not to see anti-blackness as a prerequisite for crossover success. I often worry, and am proven right by some of your comments here and in real life, that I'm perceived as a safe black person because of my appearance and how I talk, despite the content of what I'm actually saying, which is the most frustrating thing on this planet. But I want to say it here, my channel has never been a safe space for anti-blackness, and it never will be. In fact, it's dedicated to the exact opposite. I've been trying to figure out a way to say that besides all the other ways I've said that on this channel, less explicitly, but I don't think it was working. I got a comment on my last video that really just made it clear to me that I need to say this directly, and I think saying that explicitly is necessary. I think we all deserve a culture where black excellence doesn't require distancing yourself from black people to be recognized. Despite how it may seem, and all the examples I've given in this video, this isn't the only path available. Iowa Debris and Dochi are proof you don't have to distance yourself from blackness to achieve mainstream success. You can lean into it and just be yourself. You don't have to devalue blackness to elevate yourself. And I do get it, the system is seductive, for lack of a better word. It might be faster and easier in the short term, but it's not the only way. And it will always catch up with you, as we've seen. It's really frustrating to see these tweets and photos come to the light, I guess, and realize that it wasn't a deterrent for a success then, and it probably won't be now. And it's like, I say realize, but I knew this, like I saw this when it was happening, so now that it's resurfacing, it's not a surprise. And I don't know, I get confused by all the shock and whoa that's happening. Like, this is this has happened over and over again. Like, how many times can we be shocked? I really don't know what the solution is, but I can't feign shock or surprise anymore. So here we are, the black community is hurt and angry again, rightfully so. Tyler is shocked by his fans who won't even pretend to care about their atrocious behavior, and those fans, you know, they're probably oblivious to all of this entire conversation, streaming Don't Tap the Glass, blissfully unaware. So my question for Tyler and stars like him is, was it worth it? The mainstream success, the famous status, was it worth building a fan base that doesn't really see you, that eagerly consumes you, but doesn't respect all of you? The answer for Tyler might genuinely be yes. I said earlier in the video that Tyler has an incentive to confront his anti-blackness, but now I'm not so sure. The cost of his mainstream success is only a cost if he actually values connection to the black community or respects black people. But his entire career and attitude thus far suggests he doesn't, or at least he didn't value it enough to protect it. He got exactly what he wanted: distance from blackness, mainstream success, wealth, white approval. His wealth and status elevate him above most people, white or black. And when your material needs are met and you're praised and beloved, why would you confront your internalized anti-blackness? For fun? For shits and giggles? I think Tyler thought his success had exempted him from being reduced or exposed to anti-blackness and the way his fans would treat someone like D'Angelo. Or maybe he thought that they'd respect D'Angelo because they were learning about him through Tyler. I don't know. I'm still kind of confused as to what he thought the reaction would be, if I'm being completely honest. But as much as Tyler huffs and puffs, he's not actually upset about anti-blackness. He's upset that something he valued, something that happens to be black, was dismissed by the very audience he built. And what does that mean for him? It's really only a matter of time until they do the same thing to him. In the eyes of white supremacy, there's no amount of success or value that will make you stop being black. Tyler tried to opt out, and reality reminded him that he can't. But I'm not convinced that he'll stop trying. Not in the slightest. He's in a little too deep. But this isn't really about Tyler. Every time I make a video about a celebrity, I have to remind y'all I'm not talking about the celebrity. I'm not talking to the celebrity. They will probably never watch my video. But this is a chance for you, the person watching, to sit and reflect. So I'd like to ask you a few questions. Can you grow out of an audience you deliberately cultivated? And should you be able to? If you see yourself in Tyler, if you've participated in anti-blackness while being black yourself, what helped you confront that? How did you take accountability when it harmed others? Did you even take accountability? I genuinely want to know, because I think that's the most actionable thing that can come out of this. Like I said, I always think it starts with directly addressing the issue and the harm publicly, and that's just the first step in taking accountability. And I feel like we have a bit of a ways to go until that's normalized, but I'm gonna keep advocating for it. And I didn't have this on the script, but I'm sure non-black people are watching this. I'm sure you made your way to this video. If you are a fan of Tyler or just a non-black person in general, how do you confront your own anti-blackness? Because you guys aren't exempt from this conversation. You're actually integral to it. So how do you confront it and actively work against it? I think that's also an important question to ask. D'Angelo genuinely deserves so much better than the responses Tyler's fans gave to him, and it is really frustrating that his passing has been overshadowed by this foolishness that has nothing to do with him. It's really unfortunate. I think the way I've been dealing with it is by actively streaming his music and trying to remind myself that he was the catalyst for this, and hopefully this video, starts a more productive conversation about the situation. But I also just want to bookend it and remind you about D'Angelo, remind you to stream D'Angelo, start with Voodoo. I prefer Brown Sugar, if I'm being honest, and I've been streaming it while writing and editing. I'll probably listen to it while I'm editing this video as well. I asked my mom and she really likes Black Men United. I think that might actually tie into this video a little bit better. So check out those songs. Rest in peace, D'Angelo. That's all I have for you today. This was a heavier one, so thanks for sticking with me. Thank you as always to my Patreon supporters who make videos like this possible. If you are looking for something lighter, I most likely have my thoughts on Gen V Season 2 over on my second channel, Lonnie's Lane. But if not, I will see you all in the next one. Love you all for watching. Bye!